Hey! Today is something I've been wanting to talk about for the last month. I haven't talked about it because, because I needed to wait for a month to pass. This is my 1 month review. My first month training back. So let me talk to you about what's happened in this first month. Okay, so I've got variety of different parameters to look at here. We've got loads of things to get through, so let's just get right into it. I'm going to talk, get listening and get punching comments down below. Okay, I started training about 4 weeks ago, around about the last week of November. It was like the 26th of November. So I started my training then. 4 weeks later, it's like 2 days before Christmas. So I've been doing following a relatively low volume month. So I've been doing roughly on average 12 hours a week, with one rest day in each week. It's usually been following kind of the pattern of like 6 days on, 1 day off. Although I have had some days where I've done like 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, that type of thing. So it hasn't been the same. It hasn't been the same template the whole month. So yeah, my weekly elevation gain has been quite low, considering I've been climbing around 4,500 meters a week. In those 12 hours, I'm doing around about 3 to 380 kilometers a week. Now, if you remember, like maybe back in October, I was talking about how I'd like to, in my first month back training, I would like to do less hours and more intensity, and that's what I've been doing. If I can pull up this graph for you really quick, I've been spending a lot of time in zone 2 in the last month. So I think, yeah, 50% of my training has been in zone 2, which is endurance zone. 30% of my training has been spent in zone 1, which will be recovery. I've done no recovery rides in this first month. What I have been doing though is recovering properly between intervals during my ride. So that's where my 13 hours of zone 1 has come into play this month. I've spent a total of 6 hours, or 14% of my time, in zone 3, doing a lot of kind of an hour zone 3 work with spikes every few minutes. Been doing like 5 minutes at zone 3 with 5 minutes at threshold with 5 minutes at zone 3, so you're kind of going under, over, under, that sort of thing. I've only spent 4% in zone 4, which is like an hour and a half, and then 45 minutes in zone 5 and 15 minutes in zone 6. So I've been doing a little bit of that higher intensity. I'm really pleased about the ratio of zone 2 to everything else, which means that I've actually been pressing on when I've wanted to, and it goes back to what I've always said about, like, if you're not in zone 2, you're not training, particularly when you're actually doing zone 2 steady rides. A lot of people are kind of just looking at that average power and not actually trying to flatline it and ride properly as zone 2. So that's something else. It's been, way below kind of what, I'll put up little graphs and everything on the screen for you to see, but it's been well below kind of what I did this month last year. So if we're comparing December to last December I did like a total of something like 3,500 TSS, whereas this is like just under 3,000. So I've kind of lost the equivalent of, sorry, not lost, but I've done the equivalent of a week's worth of TSS less this month than I did last year. So when I retest and do another 20-minute test sometime in January, it'll be interesting to see the increase of my fitness and my FTP compared with last year. So lots to get our teeth into. in terms of like intensity of my rides, like I said, I've tried to keep them a little bit harder. This past 4 weeks I've been kind of ticking over at like 0.65 intensity factor, which is like kind of, like you say, 65% of FTP. And then this week has been 0.75, so it has been a little bit harder, even though the TSS has been the same as the last 3 weeks. So the TSS has been roughly the same the last 4 weeks. It's just I've ramped up the intensity of those weeks. I think that's kind of the key to all this. Whereas last December, my intensity factor was only 0.6 instead of 0.65. So we've not only been obviously training a little bit harder, we've also been kind of clever with what we've done by just ramping it up a little bit this week, because next week, Christmas week, which also happens to be the Festive 500 week, and I completely forgot about that. I'm actually going to do a big week anyway because the weather is turning out to be quite good, and I'm going to make the most of that. But what will happen now is, as we try to push on, our fitness will obviously increase exponentially with fatigue also growing and freshness also falling away. So as we push on now towards the new year and the end of January, I'm looking at kind of really kind of ramping up that fitness. And like I said, next week, first block, let's say the 5th week back, I'm going to be really increasing those hours. So what I've put in for next week already, like, so it's not set in stone, but we're looking at 1050 TSS. So like I said, that's just a planned number that might not even be achievable, but it's there. So what I'm going to do is try and aim for that, with a total of around 23 hours. That'll be like 10 hours more than what I've been doing the last month, and also like 400 TSS more than what I've been doing the last month. So it'll be a proper drive upwards, it'll be a good spike, and then I'll recover well the week after that and keep building on it. It's important not to keep just smacking on hours, because you will eventually, the fatigue will eventually catch up with you. So 3 hours Boxing Day, and this is the Binya Cycling Club's Boxing Day 10 mile time trial, fancy dress only. Every day I'll be riding, be a few hours here and there. Not every day will be really intense. Some days will just be kind of ticking over, just riding for 4 hours, for example, no efforts, just getting out there. And eventually, you know, we'll hopefully be able to build on that for the 3 weeks following that in January. But stay tuned. I mean, that's the whole point of me doing these daily videos and daily snippets and showing you my training day in, day out. Although it may not be kind of, it may not be like a Netflix documentary, it may not be on that level, it may not be fancy, but it gives you the information that you need to kind of take yourself forward and to try things yourself and to make yourself better, and that's all I'm trying to do. So I hope you enjoyed this little breakdown. If there's anything else you want to know about, like I said, punch it in the comment section, give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you tomorrow. But if not, Merry Christmas, and thank you for being a part of this. I'll see you soon.